Well, I'm going to go ahead and get us started this morning. I'm Deb Settle, and I'm with the NEJC Chamber of Commerce, and we want to thank all of you for joining us this morning. Our guest speaker for our luncheon will be Dr. Fulton, the Superintendent of the Shawnee Mission School District. But before we get started, there's just a few little housekeeping things we'll discuss. If you would be so kind, would you turn off your video? It will help make the quality of the Zoom meeting much better for all of us. Also, if there's time for questions at the end, please just type those into the chat. I will be monitoring those. And again, as long as there is time at the end of the presentation. And also know that this is going to be recorded. So if you know of anyone that would like to watch this and was not able to join us on our Zoom today, we're going to have it out on our YouTube channel, which will be posted on our website, but we'll also be posting it to other social media. So again, I am very honored and pleased to be able to introduce this morning Dr. Fulton. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and it's always exciting in August to do a reopening of school speech. This one's going to be a little bit different, as we all know. So I am going to share my screen with you. The slides that I'll be walking through today are identical, almost in its entirety, to a presentation that we did at our August 10th Board of Education meeting. And while it doesn't tell the whole story of our attempts to reopen school, it does give a pretty good summary of some of the issues that SMSD and of course other school districts in the area have been facing as we begin to gear up for what's going to be a very different kind of school year. So let me go ahead and share my screen here and we'll get started. It'll come up in just a second. Okay, well, want to welcome everybody that is that's listening or viewing this presentation. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to do this. You know, in June of 2019, just a little over a year ago, Shawnee Mission updated its strategic plan. When we did that, we brought in community members, staff, students, and parents to really envision what the future of Shawnee Mission should look like. We were in the process of getting ready to celebrate our 50th anniversary as a unified school district. And so we wanted a vision that we could cast forward that would prepare us for our future. Shawnee Mission has a wonderful, rich history of excellence. And we wanted to build on that history of excellence to make Shawnee Mission even better going forward. You can tell from our mission statement that there's a focus on students and their learning. We also emphasize the importance of adults and students working together to achieve certain outcomes, such as making sure that we celebrate and value having an inclusive culture, that we value community engagement, and that we make sure that we have a lot of opportunities for our students as learners. As part of this strategic plan update, we were very clear about our destination going forward. We're committed to every student having a personalized learning plan that prepares them to be college and career ready and ensures that they have the interpersonal skills that they need for life success. This really has taken on new meaning since June of 2019. As we think about the year ahead, we know that we are going to be in an environment where some students will be working entirely remotely for the first semester by choice. Other students will engage in one of three modes, either working remotely, working in a hybrid format where some of the students come in but not all, and they attend 2 days a week, or everybody's in class. We're not at the point yet where we can bring all students into our classrooms, but we hope to get there soon. One of the things that we've also been doing as part of the strategic planning work is getting into the habit of spending time to really study issues in depth, developing careful plans, and doing all of that before we act on something. And I'll be talking about that some today in terms of our steps forward for reopening school. As part of our strategic planning update, we've been working on a number of issues around learning, time for teachers, especially at the secondary level, to have additional planning time and collaborative time to make sure that high quality instruction is going on. And we also have been looking at our facilities. And so recently we talked about the fact that we know that we need to go out for a bond issue in the very near future. We went out and surveyed our community about their thoughts regarding a potential future bond issue. And we are in the process of using that information to put together what will be likely a formal recommendation to the board here in the next month or so related to a bond issue, most likely in January. So our strategic plan guides everything that we do. And again, we're trying to do things in a very thoughtful way. In preparing for the start of school, there's a lot of considerations to be planned for. Some of them, I'm going to walk through some of them right now. One is that we know that there are certain state guidelines that we have to meet. Not only that, we want to meet them because they're important to do. We are required to provide students with temperature checks. We're going to do that by working with parents to have those temperature checks taken at home. But of course, then we also have nurses on staff who, when students are in school, are able to check the students' temperatures as needed. We are going to require masks of all of our students. That's a state requirement, and we're going to follow that. We have been following that in our buildings for all the adults throughout the summer, and we'll continue to practice those wearing masks, engaging in social distancing, making sure that we do those things that we know make a difference to keep COVID-19 in control. We do have now guidelines for isolation and quarantine procedures, and I'm not going to go through each of those in great detail, but it's important that if exposure happens, that we have a plan in place to address that at the individual student or staff level, or if the conditions require it, quarantining classes of students. And so that's going to be helpful to have these specific guidelines that we can use as we go through this school year. And I want to stop there for a second and add this. We don't know how long COVID-19 is going to be our new reality. We know that for the moment that we have to make sure and act and behave in ways that mitigate the spread of this virus and that we keep each other safe. We also know it's important that learning continue to occur for all of our students. And so as we've been going through our planning process, we're keeping those twin goals of safety and learning in mind. One of the things that we've been doing to help with safety and learning is to work closely with Johnson County. The Department of Health has done a wonderful job of working with school districts to establish gating criteria that help guide our behavior. Now, these are not binding, they are guidelines, but we take these guidelines very seriously. Each district has to take these guidelines and apply them to their context. And so one of the things that you see in the guidelines are certain metrics that defines what kind of behaviors are permissible when you're in particular zones. For example, for quite a long time, we were in the yellow zone, which meant that we could have elementary school in progress, but we would have to go to a hybrid approach for secondary schools, and that there would be limitations on some of the activities that we would involve students in. We just moved from yellow to red. And so the county came out with some specific language that speaks to the fact that when we are dealing in the red zone, that is pretty clear at the secondary level. You've got high risk of transmission. Now, while that risk lowers for elementary students, there's a decision that has to be made on bringing elementary students in. While it's allowed, it also has to be weighed against factors of safety as well. And so I'll talk about what we're going to do here in a second, at least as a starting point for the beginning of the year. And then finally, when you're in the red zone, under this guidance, you would not have students involved in activities or athletics. What we've done with ours is we said, look, we have to start the school year somewhere. And then when we set this up, we didn't know exactly what zone we were going to be in. We want to be in green. Everybody wants to be in green. We want all of our students in every day. That's what we're aiming for. If we're in yellow, then we can make some accommodations and keep learning going. Same is true for red. We've spent a lot of time this summer making sure that regardless of which gating criteria zone we're in, that we are prepared to teach our students in ways that are effective. And really, to be candidly, we're much better prepared going into the fall now for this year than we were when we had to go out last spring.
Dr. Fulton, if I
Yeah.
may for just a moment, the presentation is not forwarding. Is that something that you can do? Kelsey, is that something you could help with?
Dr. Fulton, if you could try unsharing your screen and then sharing it again and see if that would work.
Okay, what slide am I on?
The very first one.
The very first one. None of them have
Yes.
gone through. Okay, good to know. That's not what's showing up on my screen. So let me try.
Thank you for helping with this.
Yeah, let me. Give me just a moment.
Oh, I see something different. That's good.
What are you seeing right now?
The isolation and quarantine guidelines.
Okay. I think I can probably just maybe stay with that. I'll stay with this look. How's that? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So I was just talking about the county guidelines. I was kind of walking through that. What we did when we were originally setting up our starting point for the year is we worked from those guidelines and did a few modifications with, for example, in yellow, keeping students in a hybrid model. And if we go into red with the elementary students, taking them into remote. And so what our plans are, and I've talked about this, shared this information publicly already, is to go ahead and we'll start all students in remote for the first day of school, but we're going to carefully monitor this and work with the county health department. Our goal will be as quickly as possible to get particularly our younger students into school. So we'll, as we work with them, I think I've shared that we certainly want to look toward into September, beginning of October, as perhaps a target date, again, depending on where we are with our safety conditions in the county. Look at what we can do to especially get our youngest learners in person. Now, we're not going to jump just from remote right into having all students in class. There'd have to be a progression. We'd move from remote to hybrid, and when conditions allow, move into bringing all students in, whether that's elementary or secondary. So we're going to take this one step at a time. We want to make sure that our staff have what they need to be successful. We recognize the absolute importance of having school. We understand the hardship that this is causing for parents. That's very real. And so we want to move as quickly to in-person instruction, particularly for our youngest children, as we possibly can. So we'll be keeping people updated on progress related to that. I mentioned earlier that, am I progressing okay? Are you looking at a blue slide?
Yes.
Okay, good. I mentioned earlier that we have some different options that are available. We did go out and ask parents to please give us their preference on whether or not they would prefer to have their students in remote learning all semester, or whether they would prefer to have in person to the extent that we can offer that. And in person could mean all students in, students in a hybrid mode, which means they would be going to school 2 days a week and doing remote learning 3 days a week, or if they would be doing remote learning 5 days a week. And while we're starting with remote, again, our goal is to get to hybrid just as quickly as possible. The student preferences, interestingly enough, really distributed pretty equally by grade level. So we have these data have been a little bit old. Some of the no responses are now responses, but it gives you a pretty good idea of just how many students at each grade level are signing up for either in person or remote. And this gives you a little bit of an idea by feeder patterns. So it's pretty equally distributed across grade levels and feeder patterns. And then finally, that if you break it down by category, we know that about 70% of our elementary families would like to have in person, if possible. Middle school is a little bit less than that, and high school a little bit higher. Interesting fact here. We have around 7,800, could be as high as, by the time we're done, as high as 8,000 students, or about 29% of our students who have chosen remote only. If that were a school district, that would be the 8th largest school district in the state of Kansas. It kind of gives you some perspective on the design challenge that we face and try to make sure that we provide options for our families. And then with staff, we also surveyed staff, and I think we have great staff. They very much want to see their students in person again. And so this gives you an idea of what the staff selections were in terms of in-person, really a desire to teach only remotely, or they're willing to do a hybrid of the two. And so I know our staff they come back on Tuesday. That'll be our first opportunity to really interact as a team since last March. So we're very excited about everybody coming back in, rolling up our sleeves, doing lots of learning around some of the technology supports that we've provided for staff, students, and parents to engage in an online instruction. And so lots of teamwork in the next, in the weeks ahead here. We also recognize that in order for people to work, they're going to need supports. Although we'd love to provide support for all of our families, that's difficult to do. We are providing a program for our staff who have students in the Shawnee Mission School District, who attend the Shawnee Mission School District. They can, for fee, we can provide them with some in-person care so that they can focus on their jobs. There's a limit to what we're able to do here, but we have been able to set that up for a limited number of our students and their parents. And then finally, on this piece, I want to talk a little bit about the sports. That's been a hot topic, I know, will continue to be. Again, our goal is to have students involved in activities. That's what we want to be happening. Our athletics and activities sit in direct support of our academic mission. When students are involved in activities and athletics, you tend to see GPAs go up, behaviors improve, students find relationships that matter to them in the school environment beyond just academic coursework. And so we recognize fully the importance of athletics and activities. In the guidelines that Johnson County set up, they basically said this: look, in certain zones, certain activities are allowed. In the yellow zone, for example, most activities in athletics are allowed, but not all. There are some high-risk sports, such as football, wrestling, competitive cheer or dance, along with some stipulations around band or orchestra that are highly problematic. I mean, these are deemed as high-risk sports in terms of transference of COVID-19. These guidelines come from the National Federation of High School Sports. And so the Johnson County has relied on that information to help them in setting up their criteria. Now, when you get in the red zone, like we are now, activities are not allowed. And so for the moment, we are in a spot where we are not going to be able to provide students with the opportunity to participate in activities and athletics beyond some remote training or other strategies that would be deemed safe to do. How long we'll be in the red, we don't know. We know that it's going to last for a while. We're concerned about that. So one of the things that we've been doing as a district is reaching out to other districts in Johnson County and seeing who might have interest in working together to put together a recommendation to the Kansas High School Athletics Association to think about the what ifs. What if we can't have a full season? Is there a way to set up a spring season? And so we want to try to build in those contingencies should we not be able to do activities in athletics this fall. On the operations side, we've had a lot of mitigation strategies that we've been using, everything from plexiglass in the office areas to ventilation changes. The most recent one that we've been working on is spending time with Children's Mercy Hospital, our HVAC providers, to beef up our filtration system. You know, schools and hospitals are designed very differently. One of the questions that we've had from a lot of folks is, are we going to have the same kind of filtration system that you might expect in a hospital setting? And the answer is no, because the systems are not designed to work that way. However, there are things that we can do to do the best job possible to scrub the air and hopefully mitigate particles being in the air that where people could contract COVID-19. So we're doing that. Based on recommendations, again, from providers and Children's Mercy, we've been beefing up our filtration system, and that's just one of many examples of things that we've been doing in the Shawnee Mission School District. And so with that, I really just want to underscore the fact that at the end of the day, our goal is to get every child in school as soon as we can. Our focus is on ensuring that this year and every year that students are developing personalized learning plans that prepare them to be college and career ready and really give them the interpersonal skills that they need for life success. One thing that's going to be very different from day one this year as compared to last spring is students are going to be engaged in important learning on new content. We weren't able to do that as much last spring. They are all going to be engaged on new content, on the priority standards that are foundational to future success. They'll have assessments that go with those priority standards, so they're getting feedback on how they're doing in their learning, and they'll be getting grades. And so whether we're remote, hybrid, or in person, with every student there, we will absolutely have students engaged in learning. And we want to do a lot of progress monitoring on how students are doing with that learning. With that, I'll be happy to, I think we're moderating some questions, so I'll be happy to respond to questions.
Dr. Fulton, thank you. This is such a hard decision, and we are also eager to hear more of what this is going to look like. And like you've already said, we don't have the answers to all of the questions. Something that kept coming up in the chat room is there a specific place that people will be able to go to get answers for questions such as, what does the start of the day look like and when will the day end?
That's a great question. We do have on our website a plan, a comprehensive plan that was put together that provides a lot of those questions. We also have FAQs that we've been developing. You know, all the documents that we have are living documents. We recognize conditions are going to change. Science is going to continue to be updated, and so we want to make sure that as we make adjustments to our strategy, and we will, that we're getting those into our planning documents that are on our web, and that we're getting as many of the questions into the FAQs as possible. So I would steer them to our website, and they'll be able to find it there.
Okay, thank you for that. What about school lunches?
School lunches are a great question. In a hybrid and in-class model, school lunches will continue as normal. In a remote learning model, for those that chose in class, we will work on providing lunches to students, kind of like we did this summer, something that's prepackaged for those families that need it.
Very good, and thank you for doing that throughout the summer. Another question that popped up several times is about the school list. Do you have an idea of when those are going to be distributed?
That's a great question. The best and safest answer for that is to contact your school, and I think they'll be able to give you better guidance than what I would be able to in this forum.
Here's another one that just came in too. Can the district make some sort of announcement via Facebook, Twitter, and/or email when the FAQs are updated?
That's a great comment. I'm going to write that down, and sure, we can absolutely do that as we update the FAQs. With as new as this is for all of us, we're updating our FAQs pretty regularly, but I'll make a note of that and see if we can perhaps notify people when that happens.
What about baccalaureate programs?
Those should be available online. I know that the videos are. Again, if they have problems accessing some of that information, they can feel free to ask the district, and they'll be able to help guide people to where those are located.
Thank you.
They can also contact their school.
I know that you made some comments towards band. What about plays and drama? Any comments on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Plays and drama absolutely can fit into that high-risk category. And what we have to do is get involved with the sponsors and the students to put mitigation strategies in place. For example, you can imagine you can have everybody wear a mask. That's difficult to do sometimes in a play or drama. So we do have contingencies in place, though, for how to engage students safely in those kinds of activities. And if we can't do it safely, then we won't be able to do it. But we're trying to find creative ways to make that happen.
Very good. And one last question and then a comment too, please. Are there any updates on how IEPs would work for online learning?
That's a great question. I'll tell you, because IEPs by definition are individualized plans, probably the most effective way to answer that is to contact the special ed department or contact your school, and they'll be able to assist you on how all of this plays out for your individual child, because it's going to probably look a little bit different for every student.
Thank you. Dr. Fulton, so bottom line, if parents have some questions, tell us again, what is the best way for them to get an answer? Right.
Ask the district is a good way to get questions answered. The volume has been pretty high, so be patient with us in responding. The other thing is now that schools are back and up and running, principals are there, secretaries there, teachers will be coming in next week. I would go directly to their school, and I think they should be able to assist them. And if they can't, they'll know who to direct that question to.
I think you've done a marvelous job of giving us a great oversight of what's going on. Again, no one has the answer. So we applaud you for doing the absolute best that you can given the circumstances that you've been given. We appreciate you being here today to update us. And again, this has all been recorded. So please share it out through the school district if you're able to do so. We will share it out on all of our social media and on our website, because it has been valuable information, and we're very fortunate to have you leading our school district. Thank you, Dr. Fulton.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you all for joining us today. Please come back to other things that the Northeast Johnson County Chamber are doing to help our businesses thrive and continue to grow. So we appreciate you being here today. Thank you.